Hello and welcome back. It is Friday. It is February 9th. We are back. NBA DFS Slate Breakdown is about to start. Before we get into it, got to bring up those promos again. All the links are in the YouTube. And if you go to Line Star website on the pricing page, we have them all right here. ParlayPlay, Sleeper, Underdog, Chalkboard. If you are a new customer to any of them, you can get 1 month free of Line Star. You just have to be a new customer to those spots. Now, let's get into some fun. Let's get into this slate. We got a 6-gamer. And starting off with the Hawks versus Philly. That is the only game right at 4 or 7 o'clock East Coast that starts. And then we have, a couple games at 4:30, 5, and then the 2 late games. Now, let's just jump right into it. Highest owned point guard, Amon Thompson, 5,300. This is on Draftkings. We start on FanDuel. Amon Thompson is still one of the highest owned on FanDuel, but priced way up on DraftKings. Still bringing in 35% ownership. I still do like him. Obviously, on DraftKings, I like him way more. The guy has been producing. In the last couple weeks, he has, 1, 2, 3 over 40s, a 37, a 31. But those 30s were in 23 and 18 minutes. 25 with a 32. Playing 32 minutes, he has a 40 and a 44. So his sample size is very small of playing, a starter's allotment of minutes, but he's producing. As a starter, he's at 1.27 fantasy points per minute. I think it's around 1.13 on the season with Fred VanVleet off the court. So he is absolutely producing in the role, and he's going to get a run against this Toronto team that frankly isn't very good and not great on D, allowing 26 overall fantasy scoring. So I do like Thompson, and then on the other side, Quickly is the other high-owned point guard. Frankly, I don't see this one whatsoever. He has one 40-point game as a starter for Toronto, and he's at 7,400. So his ceiling, is pretty much 6x. I think he most likely ends around 4.5, 5x in this game. I just don't think he is as good as the salaries are saying right now in the starting spot. I think he's a fine player. I just think his salary is a little bit too high, and I'm not really liking it. I loved it when it was, 1K cheaper, but now that it's mid-7s, I just think it's a little bit too much. He's producing at, not quite the level he needs to be as a starter for the Raptors to pay off this salary against a pretty good defensively Houston team. So some pivots. We got CJ McCollum versus the Lakers. Lakers just give it up to point guards. We attack point guards with them all the time, and I think CJ is a spot we absolutely can do that. Now his price is getting up there, 7.8K, but he's living right around that 40 spot, and he does have a ceiling almost to 50 or right around 50 if he gets it going. So I like going to him. He is, I think, a fairly safe option. Maybe not the full ceiling you want out of like an 8K player, but I don't mind going there, and I'm going to get to some of them. There is a chance of a ceiling game versus the Lakers. Next, DeJounte Murray, 8.2K, another guy. He's right around mid-40s all the time, but has that ceiling of the 50s, 60s if he really gets it going. And in a spot versus the 76ers that just aren't that great defensively. They're pretty average defensively, and they've gotten worse without Embiid protecting down low there. So I like the spot for Murray and am not shying away from him whatsoever, especially at lower ownership. And get over to DraftKings. High-owned point guard, Amon Thompson, Emmanuel Quickly, and CJ McCollum. All of their prices are much better on DraftKings, and thus they do look a little bit better on DraftKings, especially Thompson. 5.3K, way too cheap. As we broke down, he has multiple 40-pointers, and he could absolutely do that again in this spot. These Thompson twins can really fill up the stat sheet with, a lot of peripheral stats, so definitely liking him a bit today. And matchup-wise, Damian Lillard, Maxey, and Thompson are at the top. I do really like Maxey in this spot. Not getting a super ton of him, but I do like him, and I am absolutely intrigued. He's at like 1.33 fantasy point per minute without Embiid on the court this season. So in a good matchup, that definitely spells good things. Even at a 9K price tag, I don't mind it. He is at least low ownership. Lillard is questionable. We don't know what he's going to do. He's been out 2 games. Chris Middleton is out already. So just understand that Lillard would look good if he's playing, but we don't know if he's playing. The one issue with Lillard is that game does project to be a blowout. And you could face limited minutes, but even a blowout, somebody's got to score, so there's still a chance to get there. And we don't like to project blowouts because you never know what's going to happen. And the blowout can happen late, and then it doesn't matter. All right, shooting guard, Emmanuel Quickly, Amon Thompson, Kelly Oubre. Kelly Oubre is another one that I'm not really getting to. 6.5K is just a little bit too much for me. He does have a ceiling to make it work. Has hit it twice in the last about week and a half or so. So I don't hate the play. I'm just not getting to a ton of them. He is at least in a huge pace up spot. So that's interesting. I think there's just other shooting guards, small forwards that I'm trying to get to over Oubre right now. And that's kind of my issue. He does have that GPP type of play where he has the big highs, low lows. So I don't hate the play. Just wish it was less owned. And that's probably why I'm not getting to more of him, just because he's a little high owned. All right, so pivots here. We got Kevin Huerter. I like Huerter. We talk about him a lot. He is another one of those GPP guys that does have the big high, low, and he's in a matchup that, look, the Sacramento Kings and Denver Nuggets starters are probably going to play a lot of minutes in this game. Probably going to be a close game. It is a higher scoring game. It's a very interesting one to target. Especially getting some guys that are a little bit cheaper to make it easier to get guys like Jokic or Sabonis and other studs that might be on this slate. CJ McCollum we went over. Ricky Council is likely why I'm not getting some Kelly Oubre. So with all the trades yesterday, Philadelphia might be a little limited. Now, I say might because I don't know what's going to happen with all their trades. I don't know if some of those guys are going to be active. As it stands right now, I'm counting them not active for tonight, which makes the 76ers a little limited. Council is a guy that is absolutely produced when he's got on the court. 1.13 fantasy point per minute so far this season. The thing, though, is he's had very, very limited minutes. And when he's on the court, it's been in, pretty much blowouts. So his usage will absolutely go down. His fantasy points per minute will go down with guys that are a little bit better on the court with him. But I at least see a path to him getting 24, 26 minutes. We have him projected at 21.6 right now. If he gets a little bit more, he starts to get interesting at a cheap price. It is a punt play. He's low owned. No idea what's going to happen with him right at this point, or the new players that the 76ers got. I'm just putting it out there to let you guys know that it is a guy that I have on my radar right now for a punt play at lower ownership. I don't love that he's coming in at 17% right now. I think that should be lower, but apparently the market is seeing it like I am, where he could potentially get more minutes. Dylan Brooks is another one that I'm interested in. Has shown a big ceiling when the big ball carriers are out, meaning Fred VanVleet or Jalen Green, and he showed up again versus Indy last game. I don't mind going to him once again. The only issue here is his median that he does. It's going to be 4 or 5x, which won't get it done at all. We need one of his ceiling games, which then puts him at 8, 9, 10x if he really gets it going. Don't love him, but I think it's an interesting spot. DeJounte Murray we went over as well already. So, getting over to shooting guard on DraftKings, Mon Thompson, Brandon Ingram, and Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy at 4,500 is probably a little cheap. If he's shooting the ball well, he can get into the 30s. And usually he is in that low 20s, which is okay, just not totally going to get it done to win. Ricky Council showing up here too, 3,400, almost stone minimum. If he gets 24, 26 minutes, he becomes interesting. Brandon Ingram is fairly interesting as well. This Laker team's just not that great versus guards, 30th versus shooting guards, and it is the revenge spot, if you want to say that, in LA, which I know he's played there multiple times, so he probably doesn't really care about the revenge thing anymore. But he does have a big-time ceiling at his price, so you got to be a little bit intrigued by good old BI. And matchup-wise, KCP is questionable, but has a great matchup. White versus Washington, gotta like. DeJounte Murray, Brandon Miller, all look fairly interesting. Now, if we go over to shooting guard, high-owned Jay Crowder, Eugene Amoriai, Kelly Oubre, Kevin Huerter, BI. We just talked about BI, so we don't need to go back about that. Jay Crowder, 4,600. His prices barely came up. He had a 30. He had a 41. Been playing huge minutes, 40, 37. If Lillard's out again, you got to expect those minutes to stay super high. And versus Charlotte Hornets team makes a lot of sense to want to go there. The one thing I will say is this game, a lot of steals and blocks. This game hit 4 threes. So he also had 5 assists, which he's not going to do regularly. 8 rebounds, not going to do that regularly. So I think that was absolutely a ceiling game. His 30-point game was probably a little bit high just due to steals and blocks. But I think there's a realistic opportunity for 25 plus. 30 is possible versus Hornet teams. I just would not expect 40 again. Coming in at real high ownership. All right, so with the Washington situation, Gafford was traded. Marvin Bagley's hurt. They have nobody at center. I expect either Eugene or Kuzma to start at center versus Boston tonight. Eugene has shown an ability to play. He is only 6'9", but he's at least 245 or 250 pounds. He's, a strong guy. He just doesn't have the height. But look, nobody is going to have the height versus Porzingis tonight. And he is at least the strongest one or biggest one altogether to play center tonight. So I wouldn't be surprised if he started. Do worry a little how many minutes he'll play, but he does at least look interesting to go that way. So don't mind going there. Also, don't mind getting a center at a guy starting at center at small forward. Just centers are a little easier to project. Usually higher fantasy point per minute spots. Kevin Huerter we went over. Brandon Ingram we went over. Got to bring up Michael Porter Jr. Once again, it is this game that we like, 232 total, likely close, and he is a guy that has shown big-time ceiling at 6,300. He can give you 50. His median, right around 30, won't get it done for you, but I think this is a spot where he could get it. It is a pace-up spot. He does tend to do better in pace-up spots than pace-down spots. So it's interesting to me at lower ownership. Small forward on DK. We got Brandon Ingram, Tobias Harris, Trey Murphy. Tobias looks great. He's been producing extremely well without Embiid. I think he's like 1.14 fantasy per minute without Embiid on the season. That can absolutely give you a 50 burger, and at 7,800, that's interesting. Sadiq Bey, Danny Advidia, and Michael Porter Jr. with Dylan Brooks and Jay Crowder kind of on top of this matchup tool. On to power forward, we got Jay Crowder, Brandon Ingram, Tobias Harris is the three I owned. Don't mind any of them. Like them all. I think BI is in a great spot to do well. Some pivots. KJ Martin, like I talked about with Council. Philly's going to be thin. He got 29 minutes last game. There's a real chance that he is starting this game. And I got to be a little intrigued with him if he's able to get 30 minutes. Michael Porter Jr. went over. Onyeka Okongwu is a guy that we've been talking about a little bit here. I talked about him on the prop show the other day. Talked about him a little bit here on their last game. And he's a dude that's just producing 0.92 fantasy point per minute as a starter. He's in a little bit better spot. It's against Paul Reed, not Embiid. So I am absolutely intrigued. He has averaged 17.2 points as a starter with 8 rebounds. That's got to intrigue you a little bit. And, he's going unowned. Denny is another one that's interesting with how thin they are. He's going to probably play a little more power forward and probably a couple more minutes. So we have him projected at 28.9 on the over the last 20. He's at 28. I wouldn't be that surprised if we got to 30. And if he gets to 30, then most of the time he's around 30 fantasy points, but he has that ceiling to get into the 50s if his shot is falling. Power forward, Eugene is at the very top on DraftKings. He is power forward center on DraftKings versus small forward on FanDuel. But at 3,800, you got to imagine he's going to be super expensive. The one thing here is he is kind of, if he doesn't start, you're real unsure of how many minutes he's going to play. If he's starting, you probably got to just roll with him. Jabari Smith is interesting, way more interesting on DraftKings at 5,400. Definitely intrigued with him at 5,400. We have seen some ceiling games from him that are just giant. He does have that ability, and I think this is a game that he could do pretty well. Also, after his injuries and few slow games, he did play 40 minutes last game, so they are letting him get extra minutes coming off his injury if he is playing well. Tobias Harris, Scotty Barnes, Jason Tatum, Jabari Smith, Kuzma, all on the top for the matchups. I do like Kyle Kuzma quite a bit in this game. I think he's going to play a lot, and really he's their only guy. So we do know, he's had a ton of 40 burgers recently, has a big ceiling, don't mind going there. If they're going to stay into the game, it's likely because Kuzma is doing something. On to center spot, Jacob Podol, highest owned, Alperen Sengun, Nikola Jokic, Paul Reed. So Podol and Sengun, 25 and 20%. Podol, I do like quite a bit. He was super chalky last game versus Charlotte, played 33 minutes. He's averaging 30 minutes over the last 5. I would have to say, though, only 20 minutes in his first game back. And since that, it's been 33, 28, and 33 with the blowout being 28. So I think projecting him, we have him at 30.5, but I really think we should probably be more like 32 on him. And that makes him very, very intriguing versus Houston Rockets team that's 24th versus center. Don't mind going there. Sengun on the other side is an absolute beast. Can literally play him whenever. Also, breaking news that Buddy Hield and Campaign are both available to make their debut. So that Ricky Council play and KJ Martin play, throw them out the window. They're worthless. I don't think they're going to... probably don't get the run. I don't think they'll get the run. I think Campaign or Buddy Hield probably does. Buddy Hield likely starts at small forward now, in my opinion, or starts at shooting guard, and Oubre starts at small forward. But yeah, throw out Council probably. Yep, Sengun, Jokic. Look, I'm never going to talk you off Jokic. He put up 82 versus Sacramento earlier this year. It is a game that was close. It was in Sacramento, 117 to 123. So a 240 game went over the 232 total that we have in this game. And I think there's a real possibility that once again it could do that. And if this game's going over, he's probably going over too. He has a great track record versus this team. Don't mind going there whatsoever. I just wish I was getting more of him than I am currently. Paul Reed is a very interesting one to me, because I think a lot of people in the industry aren't going to understand what to do with his minutes. The reason being is his minutes have been all over the place. He had these 2 games where he had an illness, 15 and 22 minutes, 28 minutes this game, barely played, but didn't start. Then starting here again, 24 minutes, but got into foul trouble, and it was a blowout, and 42 minutes. So his minutes have absolutely been all over the place. I think he's going to play 32, 35 minutes. I think it makes Mo Bamba pretty much worthless. He only played 9 minutes last game. I don't expect Mo Bamba to play a ton. I think it is Paul Reed's job, and I think it is going to be a lot of minutes. So I don't mind going here in this spot. I think it's interesting, especially if his ownership drops a little more. It becomes super interesting. Okongwa we talked about. On to center for DraftKings. Eugene, Podol, Jokic, so very similar. Anthony Davis, 10.2 is extremely interesting. Other thing I got to say about this spot, he put up a 71 and a 61 in his last 2. He's only 10K, so you got to love that. He just had a string of games where he was hitting 60s all the time, or 70s. I think there's a lot of reasons to like AD. The other thing is that Jonas Valanciunas is questionable. If Jonas can't go, it's going to be Larry Nance. So Larry Nance will be giving up a lot of size to AD. He can move with AD, but he's not nearly as long and not as big. So I think there's a lot of reasons to like AD tonight. And matchup tool-wise, Brook Lopez, Jacob Podol, Kristaps Porzingis. Note about Porzingis, they have literally nobody that is going to even be able to contest a shot versus Porzingis. The way, how high he holds the ball, how tall he is, he should be able to get his shot off pretty much whenever he wants, as long as he's not getting, double, triple teamed and he can get the ball up. So I think he's interesting at 7.9K, 340s in a row. We know he has that ceiling in the 50s, so I think Porzingis is pretty interesting as well. All right, guys, that will do it for us today. We will be back next week on Monday after the Super Bowl. Have a good one, guys. Good luck. Let's make some money. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.